So let me do a quick introduction of who I am, and Mike will go and start with you after that, and then we'll go on to each presenter here. But to get started, my name is Danny Vincent. I am a fourth-year student at Michigan State University studying environmental studies and sustainability, and I work in the Office of Sustainability, or the SLE Sustainability Department on campus. And I'm very, very excited to hear all of your presentations today. My pronouns are she, her. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to let me know. And I do believe I have everyone's presentations as well, so I'll be happy to share those myself, unless you would like to share it on your screen. But to continue, Mike, would you like to do a little introduction of yourself, and we'll move on from there?
Sure, thank you, Denny. I'm Mike Lindhout. I'm the Senior Director of International Advancement at MSU, which is a really fancy way of saying that I'm in charge of fundraising for all international initiatives at the university. So student scholarships, endowments to support our international research, all those types of things. And before coming to MSU, I worked for many years overseas for the Peace Corps, primarily managing programs in environment, agriculture, health, and education, and entrepreneurship in Peace Corps Nicaragua and Central America. But at different times, I got sent all around the world as acting country director as well, too. So I have a lot of experience working with youth in the development space before coming to MSU, and it's really fun to participate in this event every year. So it's wonderful to meet you all and to see some of you again. David and I know each other already.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure meeting you again, sir.
Well, thank you, Mike, for that introduction. And so now to get started, don't forget we have about 15 minutes per presentation. So I'm going to have a timer next to me, and I'm going to kindly try to reel in each conversation if we go a little bit above, just so that each of you have time to give us your amazing presentations. Now to get started today, can we start with Patrick? Do you want to start with a little introduction on who you are and what you're going to be discussing today? And then I will do my best to bring up your slides here.
Thank you very much. I'm Wapati Shu. I am a human rights advocate and a social animator. I live in Cameroon and I work with ONG Mondavini. And I fight against gender-based violence in our communities and the country at large. So if I'm presenting today, I'm presenting the Sustainable Development Goals, number 5. It is about gender equality. So here am I. You can present my slides. Thank you very much. As I was saying, I was talking about gender-based violence in various schools, especially in Cameroon, our own country, where it is a fundamental issue. Can continue because here's my presentation of who I am. I conduct research initiative from gender child's rights perspective and identify street children. I develop gender peace building, emergency preparedness plans faced by different communities. I'm also an ambassador of peace, social cohesion, and community mediator. Next slide. Yeah, my title is Gender-Based Violence in School, addressing school-related gender-based violence. As you can see, these are students or pupils who are in various schools in my country, Cameroon. Next slide. We can talk about education as a fundamental human right, where children and people have to be free from fear or want. They have to live or go to schools without any aspect to have fear. So if I'm saying due to the crisis that is going on in the northwest and southwest in our country, whereby children are flying from different regions to come to different regions to face the difficulties of educational level. So if I'm presenting these issues to talk about what the children are facing in their various communities today in our country, Cameroon, which brings the aspect of fundamental human rights, where children and peoples have to be free from fear and want in their various schools, because education is supposed to be a place, or school is supposed to be a place where youth supposed to be free without having any fear to go to school. So we have to bring hands together to see that all youth who wish to go to school must have the fundamental right that they must go to school without any fear and any want. As you can see, there are several national and international campaigns which are racing everywhere to make sure that the youth go to school have good educational level so that they can be good people tomorrow in our society, so that to bring about a greater change. Next slide. So I was saying there are different aspects, different aspects, whereby there are various forms of gender-based violence happening in our various schools. There are different ways, there are different aspects where boys are intimidating the girls in schools. They make them to be afraid of them, where they don't have the courage to learn very well. So it makes it to be difficult for people who are working in different aspects, especially the teachers, the parents. They have difficulties to educate their children because when they go to school, they are very fear of what is happening in their schools. Next slide. As you can see, in the whole approach and gender sensitive secular, it has an equal aspect where boys and girls supposed to be free, supposed to learn in different areas without having any perspective of intimidation. So there are factors like weak policy compliance, low resources, deep-rooted gender roots, which make the failure of education in our community. So this paper is the implication of effective intervention, whereby it can make the girl student to have more inflations in schools so that they can go to school without having any fear or any want or any challenges. So that's the aspects of gender-based violence in school. Next slide. Although schools are considered as a vital place to prevent sexual and gender-based violence, nowadays in schools, in various communities, schools have become an area of violence, especially there are many different tribes or different communities who meet in different schools, and it becomes an area where people show who they are. They show different powers against other people, which is not good. So schools are made for people to learn more, to gain more knowledge and gain more horizons, but it's not an area where we have to face difficulties or to intimidate other people. Next slide. Thank you very much. We can talk about gender-based violence and different forms and prevalence. Although gender-based violence is a global phenomenon, the nature and form of gender-based violence contest to another. In academic arena, gender-based violence is existential subject and it's a program of institution may differ according to the specific. I would say that teachers, parents have a different rules to play for their children to be more educated in schools. The parents, the teachers, and all the guidance, they are the one to protect their children from different violence in school. They have to educate their children of the different aspects they face when they go to school and after what they obtain in school. So we see that we can work hand in gloves so that youth of today should go to school, not in fear of want, but to learn more and to gain more experience and knowledge of what they want to do in their lifetime. I would say that gender-based violence can also be different forms: physical, psychological, sexual, and it is a way by which most boys intimidate the girls in school. They so became fear of who they are in school. They don't learn because they are intimidated. So we have to eradicate all these phenomena that are happening in. Yeah, thank you very much. As I was saying, you can say that there are different bullies of violence which occur in our schools and different areas. So it make a resulting of physical or psychological harm to both girls and boys in our various society, especially in the developing countries. More children have access to schooling, but still face difficulties of gender-based violence in their schools. These aspects.
Danny, I hope you're looking at the time.
Absolutely. We've got a couple more minutes, and if he is not able to come back on, we will move on to the next presenter and we'll come back to his presentation. All right, it doesn't seem like he's able to connect right now, so we will come back to Patrick when we have time at the end here. I will get out of my screen here, my screen sharing, and unfortunately for the next presentation, we don't have any slides. However, I'm very excited to hear this presentation regardless. And so let me log out here and we'll get started on the next presentation. Alrighty. So for the next presentation, and Patrick, I see that maybe you were able to log back on. We'll come right back to your presentation. I'm hoping that we can have signal towards the end here. But we're going to move on to the next presenter. We have, and please correct me if this is pronounced incorrectly, Shaju Moyo, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of an introduction and then get started on your presentation here.
Thank you so much, Vincent. Good morning to everyone in the US and good afternoon to everyone else who's outside the US. I mean, good day to everyone, really. My name is Chetu Moyo. I come from Zimbabwe and I am a master's student studying environmental science. And I also lead an organization called the Lunia Center for Youth in Zimbabwe, which is an organization that seeks for a country with equitable health service delivery for all, climate justice, and gender equality. And really, my three focus areas are climate change, public health, and gender equality. So my presentation, unfortunately, many apologies because I'm having laptop challenges. So I don't have a presentation with me, but I am going to loosely share my presentation. I want to talk about the agency of young people in achieving the sustainable development goals. Sorry, is there a question? Okay, sorry. So I'm talking about the agency, youth-led agency for the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm going to mainstream 3 Sustainable Development Goals, which is SDG 13, 3, and 5, which is gender equality, climate action, and public health. I mean, health and well-being. Coming from Africa, I think the best thing that I see happening is young people being on the agenda, being invited to spaces to speak, being involved in policy reforms and being included. But the saddest thing that I don't see is young people being involved like in their diversity, young people from rural areas. I'm talking about young people from disadvantaged communities, because unfortunately in Africa, most areas are rural. And them being rural, it means that they are hard to reach. And meaning all those young people, like right now, we are having internet or data challenges. These are young people that barely have data for anything. And even opportunities like these, they are not able to access these opportunities because they need data. And in as much as the world is racing to achieve the sustainable development goals, there is this dividend that is being left behind. And when it is being left behind, they are literally more than 50% of the population of the young people that are left behind. But when we are achieving the sustainable development goals, we are achieving them for the generation that we are having now. So my worry whenever I'm having conversations around youth-led agency is, in our agency, can we please engage all the young people in their diversity? Can we please find ways to engage young people in their diversity? Nowadays, we talk of AI, we talk of a digital world, but when we talk about those things, they unfortunately do not translate to action for young people in underserved communities, young people that are still having network challenges, some young people that don't even have a smartphone, and which is unfortunate because they constitute the majority of young people in most countries in Africa. Going back to conversations around gender equality, climate change, and public health, these are three pressing issues globally. And when we talk about the different conversations that are being had, when we talk about digital, health, we talk about mental health services, you find that most of the services that are there for mental health now, they are just there online. You have to talk to a chatbot, you have to talk to somebody online. But that service is serving people that are in underserved communities. When we talk about gender equality and all these programs that are happening, even today, there are some young people that do not know that we are celebrating the International Youth Day and they know nothing about it. So it's a very complex issue, and I feel like we are not yet ready to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals if we still have barriers in terms of access to our information, if we still have barriers in terms of the kind of young people that we want to work with and that we include in our programs, which is something that the organization that I work with tries to eliminate.
If we're not presenting, can we please mute our screens? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I was still saying that the most important thing for me to say today is that we are not going to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals as long as we still have young people that are left behind. And this is what the organization that I work with is trying to solve. We go deep in the rural areas to look for the young people, to talk to them face to face, person to person, and have conversations with them so that we can bring them up to speed. But when we are doing that work, there are a lot of challenges, because for you to go to areas that barely have road network, areas that, are hard to reach, you need to maybe a car to travel, you'd need some, sort of funding. And one of the most unfortunate thing also is how youth initiatives are not funded adequately. Youth initiatives are usually not funded, and they are kind of just initiatives to support. They are kind of voluntary, but they are not supported adequately, and it disadvantages most young people that we are trying to reach. So the Lunia Center for Youth, when we try, even when it comes to health service provision, we talk about sexual reproductive health and rights, we try to say, can we please go with service providers to this community so that they can provide the condoms, they can do the family planning, insertions, and distribute the pills. When we talk about gender, we talk about them to the challenges like GPV, what Patrick was talking about. And even now, in the onset of climate change, we're also trying so that we can talk about agroecology, change food systems and that. And I feel like it's an initiative that we all need to take up when we say we are working with young people. And even today, when we are celebrating International Youth Day, it needs to be evident that when we say we are moving forward and we're leaving no one behind, it does not mean that we are choosing young people that have access to data, access to network, and access to that. And in the case that we are not individually able to reach those young people, we need to work with youth-led organizations like the Lunia Center for Youth so that we can then cascade whatever information or conversations that we have to those young people that we can't reach. I always say, as youth-led organizations, in the work that we do as the Lunia Center for Youth, we are complementing the efforts of other young people that want to work with young people, but they cannot reach them. So my conversation loosely was around that. That's why I want to talk about, diversity, and really, what are we saying when we say youth agency leading SDGs? Because these young people in rural areas, these young people in underserved communities, they also have something to bring to the table, indigenous knowledge systems that maybe with our scientific knowledge we don't have, because with knowledge, it's an issue of co-creating. It's never an issue of top to bottom. It's an issue of community and having these conversations together. So I just wanted to encourage and strengthen the art of working with young people in their diversity, and not just secluding our initiatives to young people who have access to data and who have access to something. Vincent, I'll stop here for now, and I am open to questions or any other forms of engagements. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And so we'll take a second here if anyone has questions. I see Mike's hands are up. Oh, just clapping. Wonderful. Well, we'll give everyone a minute to think about maybe any questions we have.
I do have a question for you. I've done a lot of work over the years in very remote areas. And I think you're spot on with your analysis that without including the voices of rural youth, you're not really looking to solve problems, right? What has been your organization's biggest barrier to being able to access these youth and to reach them? Has it been a lack of funds? Has it been lack of logistical support or transportation to get there? Has it been, cultural issues with families maybe not wanting you to talk with the youth about, sexual reproductive health? What have been the biggest issues that you've faced?
Thank you so much, Mike. So first of all, I want to highlight that if you've worked in rural areas, you realize that there's gatekeeping in the community. There's the headmen, the local chiefs, and those people that work in the community. In our context, there's village health workers, there's the maybe sisters, the nurses, and all those people. So what has worked well, I want to also share what has worked well, is we have made connections with those people, and we work with them. They become our gateway to the community to then get access to these young people that we need to work with. But what really has not worked well is the access to the funds for us to continue going there. For example, we just wrapped up a project that we're doing in terms of increasing access to sexual and reproductive health and rights. And you find that we're also trying to have conversations about sexual reproductive health and rights. But these are conversations that need to have a continuous kind of engagement because behavior change takes time. But it was just a 1-year grant, and now the 1 year is over. We no longer have the funding and we can't reach to those young people anymore. I mean, we can post, we have a podcast, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have all these other social networks. But what we realize, the reason why this topic is very personal to me is the young people that we really need to reach, we are not reaching them. We reach these young people that then become denialists and they don't really need the services that we're talking about, and they can probably access the services anyhow. So they don't need a middleman or a broker to do that. So the biggest challenge really has been sustained funding to keep the initiatives going so that we can have more results, more like long-term results, because it's one thing sensitizing them so that they understand the issue, but it's another thing changing their whole behavior and making them appreciate what it means to protect your health, what it means to access all these family planning services, and what it means for you to appreciate agroecology and changing food systems so that you can improve your nutrition. Because we're also talking about these girls who become young mothers and they're still stuck in maybe food systems that they can't afford, and we are even having children that are having malnutrition. So what I've learned is that they are not there on social media. The demographic that we are trying to have a conversation with, they are not there. And the sustained funding to reach to them has been a problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Jeju. And if anyone finds that they have any questions, please hold on to those until the end. Luckily, we're running ahead of time here, so we have plenty of time for not only our next presentation, but for any follow-up questions that we may think of throughout this session. So next, I would like to introduce David. And David, if you don't mind giving us a little introduction of yourself while I bring up your slides and kind of get us started here. So thank you for being here today.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Or good morning, rather, depending on the time zone you are from, rather. My name is David Kaur. I am a passionate change maker dedicated to United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, and I am the founder and chief executive officer of Vilma. Vilma is a company born from the name Vilma of German origin, meaning a protector. So our team is geared towards protecting the environment. This morning, morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on your time zone, I'm going to be presenting on the topic, Black soldier fly larvae. transforming bio-waste to high-quality animal feed protein to reduce production costs and increase farmers' profits in Nigeria. This aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and also aligns with the theme for this year's International Youth Day Collaboratory 2024. There you can see the logo of Vilma. You can see bio-waste over there. Now, this bio-waste, the fly here acts on the bio-waste, consumes them, and become the protein you see here, these maggots, which are fed to livestock as feed. So you can move to the next slide, please. So this is the problem we have in Nigeria. You see bio-waste over here. We have thousands of tons of bio-waste on landfills that emit greenhouse gases that harm our environment. We have maize, which is one of the major constituents of animal feed, which has increased from by over 1,000%, rather from 80,000 naira, which is $50, to 800,000 naira, which is $500 per ton. You have another problem here is the high cost of conventional animal feed that makes smallholder farmers to spend over 80% of their income on production expenses. So these are the problems that the animal and livestock farmers are passing through currently in our country, Nigeria. While we have thousands of tons of bio-waste on the landfills emitting greenhouse gases that are harming the environment and causing change in weather patterns, we are having maize, which is a major constituent of the animal feed, increasing prices on a daily basis because of the effects of climate change, because farmers are going to farms, they are farming, but because of inadequate rainfall and probably drought and excess rainfall, you discover that this maize does not really yield very well. And so this leads to a shortage in the supply of maize and soybeans, and then leading to those feed manufacturing companies to buy at high cost, just like the 1,000% increase you're seeing here on the screen, moving from 80,000 naira to 800,000 naira, and you see the dollar rate there. So once these companies are able to buy at this high cost, by the time they produce, they have no choice than to sell at a higher price to smallholder farmers. So these farmers now spend over 80% of their income on production expenses, which reduces their profits and creates poverty, making them to even live lesser than $1. You can move to the next slide, please. So the solution, you can see on the screen the pictures there, transforming the bio-waste into high quality insect-based feed protein to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Now the black soldier fly larva consumes this waste, they eat them up. They have this voracious appetite that they eat waste within 14 days. Now it normally takes an average timeline for maize to be ready. The timeline is around 2 months or 3 months for maize to be ready, but the black soldier fly takes 14 days to mature for you to use to feed the livestock. And then you have replacing soybean and corn with insect-based protein for feed formulation to reduce prices and resource depletion. Now, by the time we convert this waste into black soldier fly larvae, the companies that are formulating feed will no longer have to go solely on the soybean and the corn meal, which are the major constituents, but they'll have to go for the black soldier fly larvae, which they can now use to formulate feeds, thereby reducing the cost of feed for farmers. Now you have the 80% slash in price. Now we are intended to slash feed cost by 40% for poultry and livestock farmers by transforming the bio-waste into high quality animal feed protein. You can move to the next slide. So this is our market validation. Now, what brought about this market validation is that during my conversation with a particular poultry farmer, she complained. As a matter of fact, I went to buy a chicken from her, And then when I went to buy chicken, she lamented on the high cost, which as a result of the high cost of production expenses. So I was curious to know what the problem is. And so she told me that it's high cost of feed and other factors like that. So I decided to go on a feasibility study to see how this issue can be resolved for the smallholder farmers. So we conducted a feasibility study on and offline, where we met with farmer groups in first quarter of this year. And then over 100 livestock farmers expressed strong interest in our products. And so these are market validation. And since then, they have been contacting us to know if we are ready with our products so that they can buy and cut the cost by 40%. You can move to the next slide, please. So this is the market size. You can see the potential users there. We have the feed manufacturing companies, poultry farmers, pig farmers, and fish farmers. Now, the market overview. Nigeria's animal feed sector is valued at over $2 billion. Now, Nigeria produces 50 million, are supposed to produce rather 50 million metric tons of animal feed annually, but they produce just 5.5 million metric tons per year, which gives us a shortfall of 44.5 million metric tons, coupled with the high cost of conventional feed. And this has created a critical need for alternative pocket-friendly feed solutions for our farmers, which is what we are trying to do at VIMA. So you see the Nigeria's poultry subsector alone is worth 16 trillion naira. That is over $10 billion. So you can see this is a huge market we have in Nigeria as pertains the animal feed sector that you're seeing here. So you can move to the next slide, please, Danny. Yes, our products, the black soldier fly larvae protein. Then secondly, we have the black soldier fly eggs, the neonates. The black soldier fly larvae protein is the one that is used to feed livestock and then to formulate feeds. Then the black soldier fly eggs, which are the neonates, are for people who want to start their farms small at their backyards or maybe at a small scale so that they can be able to feed their livestock at home to cut costs. Then the bio-waste handling for industries has to do with the big companies that normally process agricultural stuffs and then dispose the waste into the environment. I'll give you an example of a particular company called Pure Biotech here in Nigeria, in my location. Recently, the government body that coordinates the environmental affairs of the country had to shut the company down because they were producing and releasing their waste into the environment, particularly into water bodies that people drink. So when the community rose in protest against the company, the government had to shut them down so that they can create more sustainable measures of managing their waste. So we saw this as a need to handle waste for industries at a fee so that we can as well protect the environment or maybe stop them from emptying their waste into the environment. Can move to the next slide, Danny. Now, this is our business model. We charge an average of 800 naira, which is $0.50 per kg for black soldier fly larvae protein, providing a more economical option for our livestock farmers here in Nigeria. Then number two, we have 2,000 naira, which is $1.25 per gram for black soldier fly eggs, which are the neonates for people who want to start their own mini feed production. Then we have number three, which is 300 naira, which is $0.18 per kg for bio-waste handling for these industries. Now, down here you see we have 451.23 billion naira That is approximately 295.47 million US dollars, which is the 10% market share we are targeting to have to get in our company Vilma by providing a more economical option to farmers and these feed industries. So you can move to another slide. These are our competitors. We have Olam Group, established in 1989. Olam Nigeria is one of the major competitors with a wide product range and extensive distribution network, offering diverse conventional animal feeds, including poultry and fish feeds. We have the second competitor, which is Vita Feeds, by Grand Series Limited, established in 1983. Vita Feed by Grand Series specializes in tailored, nutritionally excellent conventional feed solutions, appealing to farmers seeking customized feed formulations. But the problem we have about these two competitors is that it is high cost. Their costs are too high based on the fact that the raw materials they are getting, soybean and corn meal, are at a high cost. And so the effects rest on the poor livestock farmers. So that is what we are proposing. Next up, please. These are unique selling proposition. We have the manna mine technology, which uses uses artificial intelligence to optimize the rearing conditions of the black soldier fly larvae. This technology maximizes our feed production, reduces operational costs, and operates on renewable energy sources like solar power, which is in line with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So we have the pocket friendliness, lower cost compared to conventional feeds, which makes it an economical option for our farmers. Then sustainability. By transforming organic waste into valuable animal feed, this reduces greenhouse gas emissions and promotes circular economy. Then we have high quality protein source, a nutrient-rich protein alternative that enhances livestock growth and productivity. And the local innovation. Now pioneering insect-based protein feed solutions tailored to the specific needs of Nigerian farmers, which supports local innovation and relevance. This is the picture of the manna mine technology you can see over there. It's more of a container that is climatized for the rearing of the black soldier fly larvae. Next up, production milestones and future goals. Number one, pilot production. Next 6 months, we intend to test our feed solutions with a selected group of farmers, gather performance data, and refine our processes. Number two, scale up. Next 1 to 2 years, we intend to expand production to meet growing demand and increase our reach and impact. Number three, future goals. By 2030, we intend to transform 1 million tons of organic waste into affordable animal feeds, and then reach at least 2,500 poultry and livestock farmers with our affordable feed solutions. Next up, our team. You can see me there, David has over 7 years of experience as a dynamic young leader working towards achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and social impact. Has spearheaded the creation of VIMA to reduce greenhouse gas emissions into the environment and provide sustainable, affordable feed solutions to farmers. We have Caroline, Director of Operations, has over 5 years of experience overseeing and optimizing daily business activities, including managing supply chains, coordinating between departments, and implementing strategies to improve efficiency and productivity. We have Saverio Danibio, Chief Operations Officer. Sorry, this is a typo error. He's the Chief Technical Officer, rather. He has over 10 years of experience in valorization of waste resources through advanced bioprocesses. His technical expertise ensures that our solutions are both effective and environmentally responsible. Next up, what we need. We need 35,000 US dollars in seed funding to start, scale, and expand our market reach. We also need it to integrate mind technology, which is artificial intelligence, to optimize our production processes, and then expand production to reach and impact over 500 farmers within 2 years of our scale-up. Thanks to everybody. If you have any questions, you can throw them at me. I'm all ears. Thank you for the opportunity to present before you at the International Youth Day Collaboratory 2024, hosted by the Global Youth Advancement Network of the Michigan State University.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Amazing slides. Okay. While I switch screens here, I'd like to give everyone an opportunity here to ask any questions that we have. And if you can't think of any right now, I want to go back and see here if Patrick is back on. Patrick, if you'd like the opportunity to finish going over your slides, we have plenty of time. And so I would be more than happy to bring that back up. However, if that's not something you'd like to proceed with, we don't have to, and we can just open it up for questions.
Yes, I wanted to ask David, how his activities are carried out in his community, and how does he involve the youth in his various activities that he carry out in his organizations? Thank you.
Very good question. How it involves the youth, I'll tell you. In the course of this feasibility study we had, it will interest you to know that about 15% or more of the people we contacted were all youths. And these youths I'm talking about, their businesses have folded up because of the high cost of production expenses in livestock farming currently. So I want to believe that this innovation is going to restore them back to their businesses. And then aside that, youths are going to be gainfully employed because they are the ones that have the technological expertise to run the Manamine technology and the affairs of Vilma company. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, Danny Vincent, anything?
We'll do any more questions for David, and then Patrick, I'll pull up your slides while we have questions.
David, it was interesting to see how much more profitable the sales of the eggs are per gram compared to, you know, the finished product. What type of
okay, sorry. Go, if you want, Harsh, you can go back to the slide so that I can answer your questions properly, sir.
My question is, David, what type of training are you having to do for the people, the customers that are buying the black soldier fly eggs rather than the finished product? Are you doing trainings for them on how to grow their own black soldier fly, or are you competing against yourself there?
Definitely. We have a section of training and development embedded in what we do at BIMA. We intend to train young people particularly because they are the ones that will capture the essence of what we are planning to do better and then transfer the knowledge to the people that are in the undeserved and rural areas. So we are looking at involving the youth in this affair seriously, on a very serious note. It's just like a train, we are bringing up a train-the-trainer pattern. So after training and inculcating this knowledge into the youths, we now forward them to their various communities so that they can embed or instill this knowledge in the local farmers over there. Have I answered your question, sir?
You have, and I think, you know, one model that you could look into that's not necessarily related to a black soldier fly, but could be interesting is, I don't know if you're familiar with Verghese Kurian. He's referred to as the milkman of India. He was a graduate of Michigan State University, who went back home to India after he graduated, and he basically revolutionized the entire dairy distribution system in India. And the way he did it was by mobilizing the most small-scale producers into cooperatives. So even people that could only, produce a gallon or 2 gallons of milk a day, he organized them into cooperatives. And now the company that they started, Amul Dairy, is one of the largest dairies in the world. But the system that they used really took advantage of small amounts of local resources that could be pooled together. And it might be something interesting to see what you could do with providing, starter kits to, folks in urban and rural areas that could produce just small amounts of larvae, sell them to you that you could then utilize on a larger scale. I'd be happy to set up a time to talk to you about it, David. It's a pretty cool model for engaging rural communities that have limited production capacity.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any other question? You were talking about there was a particular slide you were interested in, sir.
It was just, yeah, but I think you answered it, David. Have you had any luck with outside investors yet in your company?
Not yet. We recently embarked on a training with the Tony Elumelu Foundation.
Sure.
We have submitted our business plans and financials already. We are waiting for further directives. And the last other this thing we embarked on was this Total Energy Startup Challenge. And so we did that, but it was quite unfortunate that since black soldier fly farming is a novel idea, many people did not really understand the concept, and so we did not get enough votes during the Share for Likes challenge phase. We got just 18 votes, and I got a mail from Total Energies that we were number 165. And so we couldn't make it to the next phase because they wanted top 100. And so we were disqualified because we did not get enough votes. But they told us that the project is amazing, that the work we intend to do is amazing. But since we could not get enough votes, we cannot move to the next phase of the challenge. And so we have also submitted a concept note to D-Prize. I don't know if you've heard about D-Prize. D-Prize, distribution equals development, a particular nonprofit that supports startups and non-governmental organizations with grants. And so we sent a concept note to them also, but we have not really gotten a feedback from them for now. And so we are open to investors. We are open to investors. And maybe you will be our first investor.
Yeah. What I can do, David, I'm gonna put a link in the chat right now. One particular investor that I'm thinking of is Abdul Samad Rabiu. I'm sure you know who he is, but he's got a lot.
Rabiu.
Yeah, he's got obviously a lot of investments in agriculture space in Nigeria, but he also has a relatively new foundation he started up, and that's the link that I just put in there. I would suggest, anything you can do that incorporates youth and particularly gender components and how black soldier fly can be helpful in that space. That would be a good thing to highlight when you're doing outreach to other organizations and entrepreneurs as well too. Yeah, I've done a lot of work at MSU with black soldier fly, and there's some really interesting social aspects to it. In zero downsides to it. It's you're in a great space here.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for the feedback and for sharing the link to me. I'm really grateful, sir.
Wonderful. Does anyone else have any questions for David?
If they don't have questions, they can just say anything. We are all together. I want this to be as interactive as possible. If you have anything to chip into the slides, fine. I'm ready to accept corrections to refine my idea better.
Alrighty. Patrick, do you feel up for finishing your presentation or taking any questions? Let me know what you prefer.
Yeah, no problem. I'm available.
Amazing. Let me share my screen here and switch slides.
Yeah, you can go about, you can go to the preventive measures
Okay.
for gender-based violence in school. As I was saying that the guidance, parents and teachers have the rules. They have various duties to play their roles in their various educational level, especially with their children at home. We say that teachers play a very important part in the early upbringing of the child, and their ideas are also taken into consideration so that they can bring more knowledge and increase the horizons of the children. So the teachers have much to do in schools so that they can bring up boys and girls who are going to school in good direction. Because as I was telling you, in developing countries, like in Cameroon today, there's a lot of violence in our various schools between both boys and girls, whereby the boys create a gang of bully who comes to intimidate the girls own so they cannot trespass their areas. So there are also another version of aspects of religious intellectuals. For example, a Christian tends to fight against a Muslim. We can see that in every day in our various community. It happens in schools. So we have to fight and see how we can eradicate such type of things that are happening in our various communities so that we can go in line to the United Nations Sustainable Development aspect, which is number 5 of gender equality, so that each and everyone should be equal. There should not be eradication of imbalance, whereas boys and girls are supposed to be equal without any discrimination. So we create public awareness to see how we can eradicate these various phenomena that are taking place in our various community. Next slide. Yeah, in order to achieve changes in attitude and behavior, I think that we have to address the various familial aspects to see how we can bring about traditional gender roles, attitude, and structurize the relationship between boys and girls in our various environment so that we can fight against sexual violence in school, psychological violence, and different aspects that are taking place in our various community. We can talk about in tackling gender-based violence in school, a whole approach which involves the management of pupils and the curriculum which are necessary so that the teachers can educate the boys and girls of different knowledge and different aspects so that they can have a different attitude where it can bring a greater change in our society. Why not in the whole world? Next slide. As I was saying, my conclusion will becomes, it goes to various teachers, the guidance of children, the parents of different children, that they have a greater role to play in our community today. Because our community today is coming a bit and a high level of violence. The youth today, they go around taking up drugs, cocaine, and each and every aspect that brings about dangers to our community. So the parents, the teachers, and other guardians of peoples need to see how they can create awareness in their communities so that together we can fight against this phenomena that is taking place in our various community and in our various society. So I would say that teacher must make effort to foster a positive environment so that their classroom can be conducive for education to take place. A gender-responsive school is where academic, social, and physical environment where the community needs to fight from fear and want. A girl cannot go to school. Why? She's afraid that maybe tomorrow someone will come with gun in school. That is, we should have to fight against all these phenomena that are taking place in our environment. So I will tell you that it is also necessary to incorporate with gender, with rights, with violence prevention, so that together we can fight against the educational, which is a fundamental human rights aspect, so that we can eradicate gender-based violence in our schools. Thank you very much. Yes, Danny Vincent, I think it's okay. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for presenting. And does anyone at this time have any questions for Patrick?
Patrick, what type of work have you done in terms of teacher training? I saw there was a lot of focus about changing attitudes and building capacity among teachers. Have you had any luck working with the Ministry of Education or, working on developing a curriculum for teachers?
As I was saying, I will take an example from what is happening in the Anglophone regions of our country. Most youth of today that are living in the Anglophone region of our country, Cameroon, are facing difficulties of gender-based violence, especially the girls. So the Ministry of Education, we have basic education, we have the secondary education, and we have the high education. But I see that these people do not play the rules to see how they can bring a greater change in our various schools, because they don't take into consideration what the youth are facing in their various community. So that makes me to see that we have to create more awareness in our various community, in the society, in our country, so that we have to eradicate the various violence that are taking place in schools, not only in schools, but in different areas, especially maybe in churches, maybe in different corridors. We have to see how we can eradicate this. So teachers in school must have the rule to educate the youth, especially the pupils going to their school, to see how they can change the attitude of the pupils so that they can have a good conduct or be satisfied of what they want to be in future. Because most youth of today are afraid to go to school because either they face the difficulty of selling drugs in school, you sell cocaine, and other bad friends that brings them into different businesses which are out of violence or out of the violations of educational barrier. So that is it. Teachers have the roles to play so that the pupils will be good pupils of today and good citizens of their countries.
One of the things, Patrick, that I've done in the past was work specifically with normal schools, with teacher training schools. Because what I have found a lot of times in the community is if you have teachers that have been there for 20, 30, 40 years, they can be very set in their ways and not as motivated to try something new. Whereas when you're working with normal schools, you're dealing with people that have just gone through a lot of these issues as youth themselves. And I have found them to be a lot more receptive to, capacity building and training and different ways of doing things. I don't know if you have access through your NGO to work with normal schools, but that could be something to consider.
Yeah, in this level, I think that there are different NGOs that work with youth, especially we work with youth, we work on citizenship, human rights, governance, and democracy. We bring the youth to know about the knowledge of what is happening in our community, to give about the grievances of what is happening in the public aspect of our countries. So I think that the teachers training schools, most teachers today in our community, they face difficulties because some of them are volunteer teachers, because after educational level, they face difficulty of integration in the public school. So they are forced to be private teachers in private schools. So that aspect makes the teacher to be reluctant to continue the teaching aspects because they face challenges of financial difficulties. So the aspect that we can bring is to go to various schools and create awareness about what is actually taking place in various communities, in various schools, so that the victim can air out than to be silenced about what is taking place in their environment.
Wonderful. Do we have any other questions for Patrick specifically first?
Yeah.
I want to say something to Patrick. I want to just to add something. You know, to me, the issue of gender-based violence, based on what I've discovered, has to do with parental guidance to a large extent in this 21st century. A lot of people are no longer bringing up their words the way they should. And so you discover that the issue of gender-based violence does not really count on being a male or a female, because sometimes the female sex also bully the males, and other times the male sex bullies the female sex. So it's a two-way traffic altogether. And so it has to do with parental upbringing, for sure. I'll tell you a little story that I encountered. There was a certain time a woman who came on Twitter to say that the daughter always came back home to complain that nobody likes talking to her in school, that she's always alone, that in the class nobody loves her. And so she was wondering what the actual problem was, and so she had to go to the school to, after closing hours, to interact with the classmates of the daughter, only for her to discover that actually it wasn't the people in the class or somebody else that was bullying the daughter and making the class to be away from her, but the daughter was the one bullying the people in the class. And so you now see that if the daughter was bullying those people in the class and they were not wanting to be around her, what does that tell you? It tells you that, okay, for her, maybe I didn't think she did not go there. She'll feel that, okay, maybe it's because somebody there is bullying the daughter or something like that. And that was what led to maybe the daughter not having friends in the class. So it's a two-way traffic. It has to do with parental upbringing. And I think all this should be geared towards how parents can raise their words. That is just what I want to add to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, bro. Thank you very much.
Danny, I didn't see you speak on my presentation. As an environmental somebody, I wanted to hear your views.
Absolutely. Well, I'm touched that you're interested in what I have to say here. So I don't have very much experience in the agriculture industry. It's something I've always been fascinated with, but I don't necessarily have a question about it, but maybe more of a comment. And that's, it was a very unique experience to see a more sustainable viewpoint on using different proteins rather than different waste. Something that we do on campus here is we're working more towards our vermicompost, which is composting with worms. And so it's a newer topic for me, something I continue to learn about every day. But I'm fascinated to learn a little bit more about your project. I don't know if you saw, I took a few notes. And so I'm really excited to look back on your slides here and learn a little bit more, because I think, I mean, between all three of you, I will definitely be spending some time gaining a better understanding of each of your topics, because I am a student, and so this is something I'm still learning, and I'm excited to learn more about. All right. Well, we're getting close to time here, so I want to wrap up these discussions by saying thank you to all of you here for taking time not only out of your day, but out of the past couple of weeks to put your presentations together and to practice and to dedicate your time here this for us morning, maybe it's the afternoon, or late at night in the evening. So again, I want to say thank you to everyone for attending today's presentations and for celebrating International Youth Day with us.